welcome back to the EFL Extra Time podcast. I'm your host, Luke Wallace, and alongside me are Jack Cross.
Hi, mate. You all right?
And Ollie Johnson.
Mate.
Still stuck inside. Looks like we won't be back at football games for another 6 months. Boys, how do we feel about that news?
Yeah, I think we've sort of seen it coming throughout the end of summer, going towards autumn and winter, but yeah, there's not a lot we can really do about it. Just have to deal with it.
Yeah, I agree, mate. To be fair, it's just getting, because it looked like they were starting to feed in, weren't they? Like 1,000 fans or so, and a couple of games where it's just not going to happen. It's getting.
Do you reckon some of the clubs will regret not getting the money from those 1,000 fans to get them in the stadium last week?
Yeah, maybe like the lower league clubs potentially, but I think Prem teams, they probably get enough on TV revenue as it is, so they might be all right.
Fair enough. Right, let's dive into the action then. A good week. A good weekend for all of our sides, really. None of them lost. Obviously, myself and Jack's sides winning. But we'll talk about the championship. And as you can see in front of you, Coventry picked up their first win of the season. Nottingham Forest slump continues. Wycombe are finding life tough in the division. And Brentford bounced back from their opening day defeat. On page 2, Reading moved top of the league with a 2-0 win over 9-man Barnsley. There are 2 goalless draws, and Bristol City put 2 past Stoke, which lays down a marker as they move into second. Right, let's start at St Andrews then. Coventry versus QPR, the Friday night football on Sky. A 3-2 win for Coventry. A great result for them, wasn't it?
Yeah, they're obviously first points on the board, and I think obviously the last game before that, when they went to Bristol City, I think they put in a decent performance, and then obviously coming back home to scoring freezing and getting the win to brilliant start to their home. Well, we say home, but their home games this season, and yeah, I think they'll be obviously happy with that result after QPR's opening win.
A first championship win since the 31st of March 2012 for them, but will they be worried that they've already shipped 4 goals in 2 games?
I think, yeah, obviously the defence is something that they'll look at, obviously trying to not concede as many goals, but if I think a lot of teams down the bottom will just think if we score 1 more than them, then that's better. That's the aim. Then you win the game. But obviously we've seen before where goal difference plays a massive part towards the end of the season.
Yeah, definitely. It almost looks like they're playing counter-attacking football, doesn't it? If you look at the possession stats, only 36% of the ball. The teams need to be wary of that. Well, we've seen in the Premier League it's caught other sides out with the kind of brand of football that Leicester play.
Yeah, but I think it's worked in the Championship before. We sort of played that way when we had Bowen and Grzycki. So I think if you've got the players that can do it, it works quite well in the Championship because there's a lot of mixture of teams, how like they want to get it down, or there's some teams that will just want to launch the ball into the box for a big striker. So yeah, I think it can work. You just have to be wary who you try it against.
How important is it to carry momentum from this into the next one?
Yeah, obviously momentum at the start of the season is important for obviously the results, but also the mentality, the winning mentality. If they had a strong winning mentality coming up last season, but I think obviously the Championship's a lot different, and like we saw last year, Charlton had a brilliant start, but it doesn't always end well. You have to kick on after the start. So yeah, they'll obviously be happy with it, and looking for it, but yeah, they'll have to carry on as long as they can.
Yeah, and they travel to Oakwell on Saturday to take on Barnsley on what looks to be a 6-pointer. For QPR, last week we spoke about them being top of the table and the importance of building on this, but is this back to reality now? They're not that great a side. They've still got their problems. Being top of the league last week kind of papered over the cracks a bit, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously them losing Eze in the summer, that's a lot of goals, and I think when we saw them win the first game, we sort of looked at them and thought, yeah, hang on, they've got an okay front four, but it's where the defending and where the goals from midfield might come from. But yeah, I think they'll obviously be disappointed losing to a promoted team, and I think we thought originally it could be a tough season for them. So be interested to see if they start heading that way again.
Yeah, I mean, they've also lost Jordan Hugill, who contributed a fair few of their goals with Eze. Have QPR run out of time, really, to replace him? Or do you think the fact they've shipped Bree to Coventry shows their problems more in defence?
I imagine they'll always be looking to improve the defenders, but yeah, I think obviously Hugo going to Norwich, them just newly relegated. I think obviously it'd be tough to compete, especially after the time the football was suspended for the wages he's probably being offered there. But yeah, I think they'll definitely be looking for defenders to try and to build on the four they've got. That I imagine will be playing most of the time up front, but keeping the goals out of your net is, I imagine, they'll be looking at the most important thing.
Yeah, and it's an important thing Nottingham Forest will be looking to do. Let's move on to their game then. A 2-0 home defeat to Cardiff. Another game on the TV. It was a Saturday lunchtime kickoff. 2 goals for Kiefer Moore. He looks like a good signing, doesn't he?
Yeah, I said, and I'm not just being biased because he's a certified Welshman now through his grandparents. But I always thought last season, I know Wigan were a strange team being close to the bottom for most of the season, but he still managed to get some key goals for them, I think. Even though they had a good run towards the end, the 10 goals or whatever it was he scored last season, I think is probably quite good for a side that were battling relegation. So I thought he was a good signing for Cardiff, who were probably a team wanting to get to the playoffs. But he's clearly got back into a bit of a goal-scoring run now, and they could do with that because they had a bit of a poor result the weekend previous. So it was a good win for them. Yeah,
9 goals for Kiefer Moore last season in the league. Looking at the stats, though, does it look like Forest were maybe a little bit unlucky? Did they? I mean, on paper, they do look like the better side.
Yeah, like you say, look at the stats. More shots, probably not as many on target. But I think it's strange for me because I think they're actually. I always thought they were a decent side defensively because I quite like that Joe Morrell, but apparently he's on his way out now. Maybe should have done better, but I think there are some issues there. I don't know if it's issues with the manager or what, but like I said, is it 2 losses on the bounce now for them? So it's not really looking great, especially then if they're, I don't think he's captain, but he's definitely one of their key players, and Joe Morrell might be leaving.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the way Forest ended the season as well, how long is it until the pressure starts to mount on Sabri Lamucci? Because we know the Forest owners aren't known for giving their managers a lot of time.
I know. I think what we can't forget is the end of last season was a very short time ago. So I think there still is the hangover from that final day defeat and everything that went down with them missing out on the playoffs. So I think with Sabri himself, he's good. I do think he's a good manager, but it's just not working for him there. So I think Lamucci he might be one of them. You probably put him on that list to be one of the first to potentially lose his job.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. For Forest, when it works, it really works, and when it doesn't, it's going horribly wrong, as it is at the minute. For Cardiff, then, obviously, a defeat on the opening day, but bounce back will win. Do you expect them to push on from this? How far can Neil Harris take them?
I mean, yeah, I'd expect them to be, close towards the top, probably playoffs again. Even if you look at the stats, even though they probably had less shots and etc., they had more on target, they're just taking their chances. I think that's what you've got to do in this league to be able to have any sort of chance of going up. So if they're going to be a team that are going to take their chances when they get them, which is something that a player like Kiefer Moore can do if you put the ball in the box, they might have a good chance of getting a bit of promotion.
Yeah, we poked a bit of fun at Neil Harris last week, but he definitely recovered well this week. Another team that recovered well from the opening day were Blackburn, 5-0 win at Ewood Park over Wycombe Wanderers. Nearly 70% of the ball, 23 shots, 16 of them on target. For Blackburn, Wycombe are really finding this division tough, aren't they?
Yeah, I think probably a sign of things to come for them. I mean, obviously we know Blackburn are, obviously they're a decent side for this division, and they've progressed over the last couple of years after getting back into the Championship. But yeah, I think obviously Wycombe struggled a lot, and then obviously getting a red card and conceding 2 more after that. I think that'll knock their confidence. Obviously, -6 goal difference already after 2 games. I think, it's definitely going to be a struggle for them this year.
Yeah, I mean, the game was over before the sending off, wasn't it? They were already 3-0 down inside 35 minutes. What do Wycombe need to do to toughen up in this division? Do they need to, I mean, they already play long ball football, but do they need to go even more direct, almost like Coventry are doing, counter-attacking football?
Well, I think that's what basically got him promoted last season, was that typical sort of Gareth Ainsworth play of football. It's what he's done for them for like past 8 years. It's what he did as a player. So I think it would probably be difficult for them to change that. If they were to change that, I think it would probably be under a different manager. Personally, I couldn't see Gareth Ainsworth leave unless they were like banging trouble. I think we've all teams in the Championship have had bad losses like that. We had 1 or 2 last year that were quite embarrassing losses by a lot of goals, by about 5. So it's not the be all and end all, but I just think the way they play might not necessarily be suited to being a successful team in the Championship.
Yeah, because I remember the year we finished 3rd under Jaap Stam. We still got beat by quite big margins. I think we got beat by Wolves, Newcastle, Brighton, Huddersfield, all the teams around us. So it's not the end of the world for Wycombe, but they definitely need to learn from it and bounce back quite quick. As soon as they can get that first point on the board, I think they'll be underway.
I know there's not a team in the Championship that won't have a result like that, or haven't done in the past year or 2. So, like I said, if they can just sort it out, like I said, they haven't been in the Championship for a long time. It's especially under the same manager, the same sort of style of football. It's going to take a bit of getting used to. So it's going to be one of them again. If they can, give them a few games to adjust, then they might start picking up a few points.
Yeah, let's move on then to the first ever Championship game at the Brentford Community Stadium. Ended in a win for Brentford, 3-0, even though they did leave it late to get 2 of those goals. A bit like Wycombe, Huddersfield are slap bang in trouble, aren't they?
Yeah, other than Christopher Schindler, I'm not overly convinced on their team, to be honest. I think Ben Hamer in goal's a good keeper, but I just don't think they're a team good enough really to stay up in the Championship, to be perfectly honest with you. I know they struggled last season, but I'm not sure sacking the Cowley brothers was the right idea, personally. So they did do a good job originally coming in, so I think they could have at least have done that again, maybe this season. So I'm not sure that was the right idea, but I think with the new manager, he's probably put him on the list of potential first sackings as well. So they need to start picking up points, mate. They really do. They've got Forest at home, so next, and that would be a game they'd be looking to at least try and pick something out of, with Forest having the poor start they are. So I think it's a big game on the weekend for them. But for Brentford, like you said, it's probably back to their old winning ways. They were, again, a team that were probably shocked first game of the season, and had a couple of late goals. But I think I talked about, the not having Ollie Watkins and Ben Rama probably, on his way out. But you forget, Josh De Silva. He was a really good player last year in Burma, class player. And I think Tony's doing a bit of a shift up front as well. So I think, even though I said I'm not sure they'll be where they were last year, I think they might start changing my mind, if they can put a few results like this together.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Huddersfield's finishes before they went up, 19th, 17th, 16th, 19th, then out of the blue, a 5th place finish, which got them promoted. So what David Wagner did was probably nothing short of a miracle for them. I mean, they are in reality, where they deserve to be. They are generally known as a lower half championship club. I think the only reason they stayed up last season was because of the Cowley brothers, because they know how to win games of football. I think you'd agree with that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But I honestly don't think sacking the Cayley brothers was the right call. I really don't.
Yeah, Terriers fans, strap yourselves in for a long season, especially if you lose Carl and Grant as well. Brentford, obviously, you already touched on the strength and depth that they've got. Is that the thing that's going to carry them across to another top half, potentially even top 6 finish?
I think so, but touched upon the lack of Watkins and Van Ram, I might hold them back a little bit because I don't think Ivan Toney's got the same. I don't know what I'm saying. Tony's got the same sort of quality as Watkins. The same sort of target man. I think Ben Ram is sort of a one-of-a-kind player in the Championship that don't come across very often, so he won't be there. I think it's just going to be that little lack of creativity might hold them back a little bit. But if, like I said, if they can put a couple more wins like this together, then they'll be looking very strong.
Yeah, momentum is definitely the key word in the Championship this season. The games come in thick and fast. Let's move on to Kenilworth Road, a team in great form at the minute are Luton, except their defeat to Man United in the Cup last night. A 2-1 win over Derby. Not much of the ball, but did what they needed to with it. Where are you backing Luton to finish this season? Because that dressing room's in a really good place.
Obviously, very good start for Luton, and obviously Nathan Jones coming back in. I think he's got this weird connection with the club. They just suddenly started playing. Obviously, he's a decent manager for that level. Obviously, it didn't quite work for him at Stoke, but at Luton's level, whatever they have, that squad, he seems to get them firing. And obviously, he'll be really happy with the start that they've made. 2 wins out of 2, and a win against Derby, who were obviously have quality players. Rooney was back in the starting 11 again for that game, and yeah, to come back after Derby bringing them back, it'll definitely give them confidence.
Yeah, I mean, for Derby, another sluggish start. They had a poor start last season, which cost them a playoff place. How important is it that Koku gets his side firing quickly?
Yeah, I mean, it's really important if his aim is to try and push up into those playoff spots. But I've heard there's teams that are definitely a lot better than what Derby will be. I think they had a sort of a push again towards the end of the season when Rooney started just sort of smashing it. Obviously, Sibley coming into the team, he was a decent youngster that came in and started playing well for them. That gave them a bit of a push as well. And yeah, so it'll be interesting to see where they end up finishing. But yeah, obviously they'll need to kick on sooner rather than later if their aim is to be nearer the playoff side than the relegation side. But obviously that would be an extreme if they did get around the relegation spots. But you never know in this league.
Go on then. I'll have our answer from both of you on this question. Which side is going to finish higher this season, Luton or Derby?
I think Derby will in the end, but it's really interesting, and it's decent to see a lower, what you'd imagine as a lower team, pushing up towards the top at the start of the season.
I'm going to go Luton, mate. I generally do. I think they're looking good, and I think if it's not broken, don't fix it, and they're going to start taking teams, to the trenches. I think they're that sort of team. And actually, like I said, and I keep going on about Tom Lockyer in defence. I think it's a class defender. He's getting a lot of experience at international level. I think they could finish potentially top half, maybe. If a miracle happens, maybe even the playoffs. But let's see.
Yeah, I'm with Ollie on this one. I think Luton are gonna go on to have a good season this year. Shame for the fans that they won't be there for it for what looks like most of it. But yeah, I think Luton will kick on to a good season. Let's move on to the next game then at the Riverside. 1,000 Borough fans in attendance. Hopefully they'll savour that because it looks like the last time they'll be there for months. A 1-1 draw between Borough and Bournemouth. A decent result for both of these sides. I mean, we expect them both to be at the right end of the table come May, don't we?
Yeah, I think you've probably hit the nail on the head there. I think especially more so for Borough this week, just based on the whole thing with Neil Warnock and him not going to be able to be there now for a few games. I just think, like you said there, I think they're both going to be at the right end of the table. I think Borough have made some pretty good signings, personally. I think, Bettinelli's a class keeper. He briefly got in the England squad a couple of years ago when he had a good run of form for Fulham in the Prem. And I think Grant Hall always played well at QPR as well. So I think, they could be a team to be reckoned with, Borough. But like I said, Bournemouth have just come down, a strong team. They had the likes of Brooks playing. Solanke got a goal as well. So, they're a strong team still. So I think that's probably a good result anyway, if you can get a point at a team that just been relegated. So, yeah, I think good result all round, Borough. I think they can kick on from that.
Yeah, I agree. I do think Marcus Bettinelli is one of the most underappreciated keepers in the league. Even though he did concede a goal to Dominic Solanke, what are we expecting from him this season?
Well, I think it's a big season needed from him on personal levels as well. You're talking about a striker who's so hyped up at youth team level. Basically got in the England squads on the back of doing well for the under-20s. I think he scored 1 goal for Liverpool. Scored a couple in the for a striker, he hasn't scored enough goals to be solidified. That's that. But if he can get good run this season, if you can get double figures, it'll only put him in good stead, and you can kick on from there. You look what's happening to the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the Prem. Somebody who didn't score many goals, in the start of his career, but then over the last season he got by 13 goals. He's getting a load this season as well. So I think if he can have a season like that where he just starts to get into double figures and starts to get a bit of a run going, then he could be a really good player.
Who do we see going on to do more this season? Same as the last game, really, same kind of question. But who do we see going on to do more this season?
I do think, but I just think the recruitment this season has been pretty good, and I think they've got a really solid Championship team. They could finish top half. I don't know how much further they could go. Whether they push for promotion space or not, I don't know, but they have done in the past. I do think losing George Friend might have been a bit of a loss to them, but they seem to be holding out at the minute. Likewise with Bournemouth, I think maybe, I think they look to be getting at least playoff. I think just, if you're coming back down, the ideal situation, we go straight back up. If they can hold on to the likes of David Brooks, then they've got that quality to be able to create stuff and maybe get them those goals and those points to facilitate that.
Yeah, I don't know about George Friend. He is a bit older now, and I think his knees are a bit past it, but he seems to have settled in all right at Birmingham. So
I just thought on that level, he was a big character in the dressing room, probably got that team through tough times, because a player who'd been there, a well-respected player in the dressing room, who would you probably class that as now? Would you look at somebody like Paddy McNair or somebody, to look, it's just that character, that sort of captain mentality. You just needed something. I thought that might have affected them, but if they can get points like this to teams just coming down, which are a good, they're still a good team, Bournemouth, don't get me wrong. If they can still pick up points to teams like that, then they could do well.
Yeah, I just think with the way Borough play now, the 3-5-2, you'd either have to convert into almost like a centre back or a wing back, and definitely at his age, he wouldn't be able to be a wing back anymore.
Yeah, no, it wasn't in terms of playing; it was more in terms of just like the dressing room, like having somebody to look up to.
Yeah, definitely. Let's move on to the 2-2 draw at Carrow Road then. Norwich 2, Preston 2. Two teams again that are going to be close come the end of the season. Preston opened their account with a defeat to Swansea and now a draw against Norwich. Would Alex Neil have been looking for more from his side?
Yeah, but I think obviously Daniel Farke would be looking for a lot more as well. I think the squad they have to having to come from behind twice just to take a point. I mean, obviously we know Preston are a decent side for this division, and they would have been disappointed with the loss to Swansea on the first day. And they would have looked at going to Norwich, obviously, they got a late winner last week as well. But they with the team they have, they would have been looking to win that game, especially home form's important if they're looking to be, as I'm sure they will be, back up again towards the top end of the table, trying to aim for promotion.
See, if I was Daniel Farke, I'd be quite pleased with this, because I feel like if this game was 2 or 3 months ago, especially if they'd gone 2-1 down again after getting back into the game, Norwich would have gone on to lose this one 3 or 4-1. I just think he might have turned the morale around in that dressing room.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'll be pleased with the aspect of coming from behind twice, but he would have been definitely looking to not have been going behind twice. I mean, that solves the issue straight away. If they don't concede those goals, giving away a penalty near the start of the game, it can be solved easily. But yeah, obviously, he'll be happy that he can show in this league that they do have the grit that they didn't show last season to come from behind and at least take a point.
Yeah, good point, well made. For Preston, a really tough start to the season. They've already played Swansea, Derby in the Cup and Norwich in the league. Does that kind of start have the ability to take a bit out of a side and make them run out of steam before the end? We saw poor starts last season cost several teams. Do you reckon it could be the same case for Preston here?
Maybe there's a possibility, but I think the performance shows otherwise. I think the fact, like, if you flip it to the other side, I think obviously if you go to a newly relegated team and score 2, they're looking at disappointed they didn't hold on for those last 5 minutes. But yeah, so I think in the end they'll be fine, even though they've had a tough start. I think they'll kick on eventually, but be interested to see where they end up. I think it'll be around similar as usual for them. But yeah, I think they'll be happy with a point at Norwich.
Yeah, right then. Let's move on to the table toppers then, which are of course Reading. No pleasure in saying that at all. A 2-0 win over Barnsley, but personally, I'm not getting too excited yet. I mean, a 2-0 win over 9 men that play for a side who only stayed up, albeit on a technicality last season, despite some good form going into the run-in. I don't know. I feel like this is a missed opportunity for Reading. A bit of a goal difference booster. I just feel like more could have been done to get this one over the line rather than leave it late after both the red cards.
I disagree with you, to be honest. I know there was 2 red cards, but you definitely controlled the game and quite comfortably. I do think, you're looking good past 2 games. You're developing that bit of momentum, that bit of good form that can put you in good stead later on. Barnsley are a team to be reckoned with as well. Even though they stayed up on the technicality, they're still a team that could snatch a point from you. They're probably like a Millwall that can turn up and upset your day. So I just think, I wouldn't knock yourself too early, mate. I generally think you can go on a good run, and especially Reading playing Cardiff next up. If you can get a good win there, that would do us all a favour. But that would also, that would be against a team that are looking to be in the same sort of position as you'd hope to be at the end of the season. So you could definitely be up there, mate.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of, especially when we had Jaap Stam at the helm. We used to have a lot of the ball and didn't do much with it. So I am very conscious of that kind of brand of football again. But yeah, I was going to come on to that game against Cardiff. That's going to be the proper test for Reading, isn't it? A side that finished in the top 6 last season, have some quality players about them. Go on then, Ollie. I'll ask you about this one. Who do you see coming out on top? Obviously, we'll talk about it in the weekend preview, but what are your initial thoughts on that game?
Just based on form of the 2 games, Reading to win, just because how poor Cardiff were. I just think against Cardiff last time out, they just were able to take their chances, and it's given Kiefer Moore, the start he probably needs. So I think the last thing you'd want is for him to get another brace, but because I'm not sure, defensively you'd be able to potentially handle, the long ball or whatever they're going to do, or just feed it into the box every 2 seconds. But likewise, I think on the counter attack you're pretty good. I don't think Cardiff are very good defensively at all. So yeah, I think you've got the potential, you've got the possibility to beat them, but I think it's the case of can you contain, the Cardiff strikers.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Would be nice to take 3 points from that game. Obviously, I have quite a lot of faith in our defensive, our back four. Omar Richards had a really good start to the season. Yeardom's out injured, but Araruna had a good game against Barnsley, and we got Morrison and Moore as centre back, so we brought in Lewis Gibson as well to back that up from Everton. So hopefully we can keep Kiefer more quiet. If not, it might be a long afternoon for us, as you say. But I think it will be a case of taking our chances against Cardiff. Let's move on then. Rotherham versus Millwall ended in a 1-0 win for the away side. A Jed Wallace goal, the difference. But looking at the stats, it seemed a very even game. And only one shot on target for Rotherham, only 2 on target for Millwall. This looked like a stone racing 0-0 on paper, didn't it?
Yeah, and obviously Rotherham getting that win last week, they would have took confidence into this home game with Millwall only getting a point in their first game. But I think Millwall will be happy in the end to grind out that 1-0 win. And I think 1-0 wins are what a lot of teams that end up pushing for the playoffs get. You have to grind out those 1-0. People would be so boring to watch maybe games, and yeah, they'll take a lot of confidence from that as they try and push up the, I'd imagine, top half of the table like last season and see if they can get in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's what Forest failed to do at the end of last season, wasn't it? The top quality sides, not well, a bit early to use that phrase on Millwall, I guess, but the top quality sides do grind out those results to keep themselves pushing towards the top 6, don't they?
Yeah, and like I say, that's normally key to your success in this league, and I think definitely the 2 clean sheets in 2 games. Mind you, one was a draw, but they'll still take it. I think. Yeah, they'll be happy with a solid start to the season.
Yeah, for Rotherham then, obviously snuck a 1-0 against Wycombe on the opening day, but only 1 shot on target against Millwall, again showing how tough it is in the Championship, what a big step up it is from League One. Will they be disappointed to lose their first home game of the season, or do you think they would have looked past Millwall and ahead into the future already?
I think they'll always be disappointed to lose their home games, but I think it'll be the teams that'll be more around them. They'd be more disappointed if they'd have lost that to like the Barnsley's, probably Huddersfield, Wycombe towards the end of the season. I mean, I think the home form will decide whether they stay up or not. So I think, yeah, they'll be disappointed not to have started strongly at home.
Yeah, and next week they have Birmingham, which will be an interesting game because not sure what to make of Birmingham. I'm not sure they'll pan out yet. So Rotherham need to go into that with fresh heads. Moving on to Hillsborough then. A goalless draw, but I think if you're Sheffield Wednesday, you're going to be happy with this result, aren't you?
Oh, definitely. I think they've had a great start to the season. It definitely wasn't something I expected. I remember, our first podcast, I had Gary Monk down as being one of the first to be sacked, but they've turned it around from the poor end to the season they did have. But I think, they're starting to build together quite a decent side, especially in attack. I think, like we've said a couple of times on these podcasts, I really rate Josh Windass as a player. He proved a lot at Rangers. I know it's a bit of a farmers league in Scotland, but he came over to Wigan, played well. He played well at the end of last season, even though Sheffield Wednesday as a team weren't. But he's developing a good side. We signed Izzy Brown on loan from Chelsea, and he's a decent player. He was on loan to Luton and basically helped them stay up as well. So there's a couple of good players, and I think they could do an awful lot, and especially against a team like Watford as well. Again, I said it earlier at the Borough and Bournemouth game. If you can get a point to a team that have just got relegated and looking to bounce back up, then I think that's a really good result.
Yeah, back to -8 already. What can they do from this position?
well, just keep, if they can at least get to, all even, it'd be great. So if they can get to that on the bench, with all, wins from now, then, they'll still probably be struggling, but if they can just continue the form, there's no reason why they can't at least get, comfortably away from the relegation zone, or maybe even top half. It'll probably be one of the best probably one of the best results all season if they could get top half. But I think it's all about now just keeping the momentum, keeping the good form, and just continue to get points. I think that was a really good point and a vital point they were going to get.
Yeah. For Watford, then, do you think they would have taken a point before this game?
Yeah, probably a bit of a disappointing result on their part. Like I said, a team that would probably be looking to bounce back up. Still without Troy Deeney, for whatever reason. Rumour is injured, but he's back training. Or whether he's on his way back to Premier League side. Maybe having an effect, but I still think somebody like Glenn Murray could probably do him a bit of a job in the Championship. He's probably pushing his luck in the Premier League at 36 or whatever he is now. So, there are a few players in that could get him those points. I think that young player, Garner from Man United, is a good sign. It's good for all parties. He looks quality when he has come on for United, but he's a player that needs game time, so he hopefully can get that and develop at Watford. Because over the past season we've seen a lot of young players go to Championship teams and develop, and now getting some chances at Premier League level.
Yeah, I agree. Having seen James Garner for the United under-23s, I think he definitely looks like a good player. For Troy Deeney, then, almost in the same boat as Glenn Murray, but he'll be keen to get back to the Premier League as soon as possible, won't he? Because he's running out of time. How much of a miss do you think he'd be for Watford?
I just think he's one of them players, with that physicality he's got, that can really make the difference for him. I think he was such a key part when they got promoted last time out, about 5 years ago, and I still think he could do it now. Because it is a physical league, it's a lot different to the Premier League, and I think somebody like him's probably better suited to it, even though he's got the quality, in my opinion, to be a Premier League striker.
Yeah, let's move on to your club then, Ollie. A 0-0 home draw with Birmingham. What are your thoughts on this one?
To be honest, mate, I'm not sure, because Birmingham would obviously again got a result the week before, which probably put them in good stead. So if we're honest, against Brentford, likewise, so did we. So it was both a good start, but it's probably a team that I looked at the start of the season and thought we should be beaten at home. I think we beat them 3-0 at home last season, so a little bit disappointed with that. But by all accounts, the most interesting thing that happened was the scuffle at half time, which is now probably going to affect the team as well. But it's probably a better result for Birmingham than us. We have got a key game this weekend, playing Wycombe, who are obviously in a poor bit of form. So if we can get a good one against them, then we'll be back up and hopefully closer towards the top. But it's not terrible, but it's not perfect. So I'll take it, but it could have been better.
Yeah, and of course, the incident you're referring to, if people haven't seen it on social media, is your coach, Alan Tate, one of your former players, almost choking John Terrell of Birmingham, which they obviously had an exchange of words before, don't know what was said, but doesn't look good for Mr. Tate, but I'm sure the EFL and the FA will look at it if they feel they need to. 61% of the ball. Is that what you want from Swansea, to control games, to be the classier side? Is that the way you want your football to be played?
Yeah, it's the way we got to the Premier League last time, is passing the ball and controlling the game. And if we continue to do that, it's probably can't see scoring like bags and bags of goals if we're going to play that sort of play. Because I still want to see Jamal Lowe get off and running goal scoring, because I think he could probably be that player that can just get us a load of goals, when we need them. A bit like Brewster did, that second half of the season, somebody with that quality and, that just goal scoring mentality. But I think, the quality of Morgan Gibbs-White, by all accounts, is incredible. And he's really making a good impression on the fans. So if we can continue to do that, I think we'll be all right. But I think it just needs a case where we probably need a few more 3-pointers than one point.
Yeah, more good recruitment from Steve Cooper using his contacts in the game. Let's move on to Sunday then. Stoke 0, Bristol City 2 at the Bet365. Stoke will be wanting to challenge a side like Bristol City come the end of the season. Will they be disappointed by this result?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Bristol City, brilliant start to the season. 2 wins from 2 and a goal at the end of each half. I mean, yeah, like you said, Stoke will be wanting to be probably around where Bristol City will end up at the end of the season, sort of top half. But yeah, obviously new manager at Bristol City has had a brilliant start. Obviously towards the end of the season last year after lockdown when he came in, when Lee Johnson left, had a decent record then. Pushed them on a little bit. Obviously, with Stoke, they'll be looking for a much better season than last season, and Michael O'Neill's definitely shown signs that he's going to do that. But playing a game with no shots on target is never it's never a good thing at home. I don't think he'll be happy with that at all.
No, especially not when you've had more of the ball than your opponents, and then you end up 2-0 down. The timings of the goal, 45 plus 2 and 89. Does that show Stoke might have a tendency to switch off towards the end of each half?
Yeah, possibly. It could just be, could look at it the other way. Bristol City might just be pushing a lot stronger right up until the end of the half. But yeah, Stoke could just look, yeah, it's 0-0. We'll just hold on flat. We'll just get into the dressing room and see what we can change for the second half. But I feel like it might have been an off day for Stoke. No shots on target. It sounds like if they've had the ball, only just more of the balls, they haven't been very creative with it.
Obviously, that will leave Michael O'Neill disappointed. What about Dean Holden? Will he be pleased with his side to go away to Stoke and get that win?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's known that it's obviously tough to go away to Stoke. Whatever time of the season. But yeah, I think he'll be delighted with the start to the season. Obviously beating Coventry last week and going away to Stoke and getting a win. I think he'll be happy with the way they got the goals as well at the end of each half, showing they can kill them off the games as well instead of being wary whether they're going to concede an equaliser towards the end of the half. Shows good signs for them.
Yeah, his record at Bristol City now reads played 9, won 6, drawn 2 and lost just 1. So it looks, despite the objections from the Bristol City fans, it looks like quite a good appointment they've made here, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's still quite early to tell, and towards the end of last season, a change can change mentality, maybe new ideas that can get you a decent run going. But be interested to see where they end up this season in his first full season in charge to see what he can do.
Yeah, right. Let's look through the table then, which will obviously put a smile on my face. Reading top of the league by virtue of goal difference ahead of the aforementioned Bristol City. Luton and Bournemouth round out the top 4. Boys, out of that, I mean, it pains me to say it, but I would back Bristol City and Bournemouth to stay in those top 4 positions longer.
I was just going to say, I'm not expecting, Luton to be second by the end of the season, but if they can be anywhere near that, probably within, a few places, like even if they just go outside the playoffs, that's a great season for them. I think even for you, even if you didn't potentially make the playoffs, if you could just get yourself back, within a couple of points or even make the playoffs, it's just like a much better season. It's a great stepping stone for next season, to attract players to the club, to give you that extra push to go up. So I still think, with the quality you've had so far, both, yourself with Reading and Luton could both be up there, but likewise I'd also expect, Bournemouth to be there, etc. as well.
Yeah, the test for Reading will come this Saturday at the Cardiff City Stadium. Norwich and Birmingham round out the playoff places ahead of Millwall and Swansea, who are close behind, similar to where they were last season. The top half rounded out by Watford, Blackburn, Brentford and QPR, who were the big losers at the weekend, dropping 11 places. Boys, out of these four, would you say Watford and Brentford will be looking to get to where Reading and Luton are?
Yeah, Watford will be definitely. I mean, obviously we don't know what's going to happen with their transfers, and obviously they've got a lot of injuries, which is obviously affecting them at the minute. But yeah, they'll be looking to get up into the playoffs, if not the top two. But yeah, Brentford, it's difficult to say. Obviously losing Ollie Watkins, and you don't know what's going to happen with Ben Rama. But yeah, I think out of the four, I think them two will be the playoff / promotion pushers.
Into the bottom half then, Coventry move up to 13th, Cardiff up 7 into 14th, Rotherham slipped to 15th and Preston in 16th. Borough, Stoke and Derby will be looking to move forward from 17th, 18th and 19th respectively. Barnsley hold on in 20th. Huddersfield just outside the relegation places in 21st. I think their fans will have to get used to that side. Forest in 22nd, they'll be disappointed. Wigan in 23rd, and Sheffield Wednesday's form reads quite weirdly: a win and a draw, but bottom of the league. And 6 teams yet to concede: Birmingham, Millwall, Reading, Sheffield Wednesday, Swansea, and Watford have all kept clean sheets in both of their games so far. Boys, that is it for the Championship. Thank you very much for joining me.
No problem.
No worries, mate.
And we will be back with our League 1 and 2 review in just a moment, and we will have our weekend previews out in a couple of days. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you later. Bye-bye.